Hello, everyone. Welcome to On Being a Therapist. I am Ruhi, a psychotherapist, supervisor, and a trainer at Positive Perspective. And today, the host for this series with On Being a Therapist. Today, I have Rajeshwari with me. Before we go into and get to know Raji more, uh, I would like to share the intention of the podcast. The intention
Mhm.
is to sort of help community to know who mental health workers are at Positive Perspective, and
Mm.
which may on a larger lens help them access and help them really pick up a therapist that really resonates to them while listening to these podcasts. So that's the little hope that we have to sort of help people get familiar with therapists at POS. So yeah, so welcome to this podcast, Raji.
Thank you, Ruhi. Yeah.
Cool. So I have a couple of questions for our
Mhm.
conversation today, and that's how we'll follow through for
I'm
the
excited.
talking. Cool. So before we actually move in, can you introduce about yourself a little bit?
Mhm. So, hi guys. As Ruhi already introduced me, I'm Rajeshwari, and I'm a fellow at PAUSE as of now, and I'm also a expressive art-based therapy practitioner. So, I'm from Delhi, and I'm 27 years old. I've been in the field for the last 11 years now. Um, Considering my education, academics, training, and everything. And I'm enjoying my time in Hyderabad as of now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Delhi. So wow. Raji and I were having a little conversation about what Delhi is and all of that before. That's why I said this. But
Hmm.
yeah, so let's get into the conversation, Raji. So to begin with, I guess this is a common asked question, is what all my interviewees say. So I'm asking you this question: like, what motivated you to actually get into the field of psychology?
Yeah. I think from very early on, while I was growing up in my teenage years, no, a lot of times I used to be that one person whom you go up to every time there's anything happening, any conflict, anything that you would want to share. And I kind of knew that I had some natural flair to hold space for everyone. And I liked doing that. I liked having those conversations. I liked providing solutions if the person asked me for, and that was that whole sense of that, okay, I like having these conversations, having certain nuances of knowing people, knowing what they are grappling with. And I kind of always had that inclination towards thinking about what the other person feels in any conversation, that what would be at play, what would he be feeling like or she be feeling like, what would they be feeling like, for them to say certain things. And I think that kind of encouraged me to read up about psychology. And then obviously there's always that, like you said, there's that common asked question. It's also the common response that a lot of counselors at school kind of motivate you to be in the field, to take up psychology. And I had a similar experience. I was really close to the counselor. I just looked up to her, and I envied her for the way she, held space for everyone. She had a very different glow as compared to other teachers. Like she the way she used to carry herself, the way she used to be at work.
Mhm.
And I kind of always wanted to get some of that. That kind of motivated me. And also the fact that I liked holding space for others. I liked having those conversations. So then I kind of tried exploring psychology as a subject. And I think psychology was the main reason why I opted for humanities, arts, because as everyone else's family, as everyone else's parents also tell you to take up science or commerce. Like science नहीं कर सकते तो commerce से जरूर करना है.
Mhm.
Arts should not be your option.
Mhm.
But I kind of put my foot down, and I said, no, I want to take up humanities. And I remember all the teachers were being like, but तुम्हारे score से you can take science. And I'm like, नहीं, but नहीं करना है ना. So I think psychology was that one key factor for me to also take up humanities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it seems to be it's really about what sort of really motivated you, or
Hmm.
if really uh, like encouraged you sort of a thingy where you witness
Mhm.
your teacher on the psych teacher at your school or the counselor at your
Yeah.
school sort of
Yeah.
help you to really sort of say, okay, this is what I want to do, and really
Yeah.
persisting to get into that space as well. That's
Hmm.
really good. So, uh,
Yeah.
at this point, I'm also getting reminded of how a lot of, like, I've been doing the series, and at least handful of them, including me, have persisted to actually get into the stream,
Yeah.
wherein actually breaking the norms of doing engineering or doing the science stream
I,
and saying कि maths करना ही है,
yeah.
करना ही है, right? So that's interesting, and it seems like very solid in terms of community. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how long have you been part of Pause?
It's been, I think, 6 months now. I joined in January, the first January, as I remember, and it's been 6 months of my fellowship, and it's been really good being here at Pause, and I'm really enjoying my time and the way Pause has allowed me to be a certain way in my therapy in practicing my approach.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of liking it here.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
you said you've been familiar to the space of psychology for
Mm-hmm.
11 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So can you say a little bit more about what kept you going for 11 years?
Yeah, I think when I started as young as being an 11th standard student and I went on to do my graduation, my post graduation, and then training, that was more of part of strengthening what I already knew about psychology, which was to have a whole space for other humans, to have that, there was some curiosity about human behavior. And I feel a lot of that was also kind of instilled in me. The way people used to look at me or talk about me being in the field, everyone who used to know is like, "Oh, तो तुम्हें तो बहुत पता होगा about humans. Like, what are you? Can you read my face?" And I was like, "Please shut up. That's not how it works." But everyone had that kind of. They just looked at you very differently because you were curious. You were kind of, there was an intention to engage in human behavior, and so I think that was that one motivating factor initially when I was completing my graduation and academics area. uh, and then I think during my masters is was the reason why I really kind of figured out that this is what I want to do. This is what I really want to explore and continue doing for a good part of my life, at least. Because till master, it was more about theoretical approaches of how psychology works, how human brain functions, how mind functions. I think masters gave it that humanized the subject for me, wherein because I went on to do my masters in psychosocial clinical approach, it was more about how people are related to psychology. Psychology is definitely a science, an art, and an approach, but what is that nuance of people that come into it, right? It became very humanized in the way because that's when we started engaging with people's conversations and how they deal with mental health. A lot of wokeness about mental health had come in by that time,
Mm.
and that was new for me. That was very engaging for me because I had not seen it. That whole sense. Also, I think my masters gave me a very gendered, socialistic lens to psychology. It until then it was very scientific. It was very clinical that way, but I think my masters, my training, and the conversations with other fellow students, fellow colleagues after masters in training,
Mhm.
that kind of just motivated, and it gave me a sense of purpose that okay, this is something which we need to kind of work towards together as a community. Because I think during the days, this is, I'm talking about 2015, 2016, mental health was, and it's still seen as a taboo subject, but that time a lot of conversations were happening around mental health. And that whole sense of mental health awareness, mental health welfare, those things came in my those things came in my arena of knowledge. Until then it was psychology, it was just very psychoanalytic terms, very theoretical terms. So I
Mhm.
think that's where that whole connection with humans began.
Mhm.
And I feel I became more empathetic, I became more resilient towards life. uh, and a lot of marginalized literature had come in by that time
Mm,
in my practice.
mm,
So I think that kind of also brought me closer to people of all walks of life. Until then, because I've been born and brought up in Delhi, it's obviously like the national capital, but it's also a metropolitan city. It doesn't really, I didn't have that space or that networking to connect with people from the margins.
mm,
And my master's and postmaster's training just changed that whole that environment for me.
mm,
And I the nuance came into my approach, Ruhi. The nuance came into my knowledge that the intention strengthened after that. That it wasn't just to uh, be curious about psychology. It was also to provide something, like contribute something to society as a practitioner. So I think that's been like a constant motivational factor here.
mm. From the intention to the nuance
More
intention.
than that.
Seems like that's
Yeah.
really what we're saying here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for tracking that way. Yeah, it makes sense now.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what are some, of course, you said in the intro that you are also art-based psychotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you can say more about that. Like it seems
Mm.
to be, is it your area of expertise?
It kind of it's the intended way of like my approach towards mental health and my work with mental health. I feel I'm still learning a lot about those modalities. Basically, when I say expressive art-based therapy practitioner, I'm also talking about that how I use a blend of different modalities of art forms, be it drawing, music, psychodrama, listening, reading, and painting, and other forms like movement. And I think if we were to really nuance it and call, like, try and look out for an expertise, it would be more of a movement based thing that I would really want to venture into and uh, ground more about it. But you can say that it's my preferred way, my preferred approach into practice in therapy. Expertise, I'm not really sure about right now. I'm still working on that whole stance.
Mm.
But yeah, that's how it looks like. And it's very much about the process and not about the product, because I've heard a lot about, every time anyone calls you, like, everyone talks about being an expressive art based therapist or introduce you to that approach, people just get very concerned about, but I'm not an artist. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to move. I can't dance. And none of that matters. It's more about what you bring in and how you kind of relate to the approach, how you look at the approach. What does that approach appeal to you in what ways? It doesn't have to mean that you have to be an artist or you have to be a dancer or you have to be a singer for you to practice or for you to kind of try it out for yourself, try the approach of expressive art based therapy. And that is something a very commonly asked question by my clients also, कि नहीं आता मुझे तो crayon उठाए हुए जमाना हो गया, like it's been years that I've gone into drawing and everything. But I think it's more about the process than the product, because when you actually kind of walk them through the process, it's just, I won't say it's magical, but there is some sense that something shifts and they are able to see that for themselves, that, oh, it was the essence of the activity of the approach and not what it comes out, not the outcome
Mm.
per se. So I think that's been.
Mhm. And if a person who's hearing this out, who's
Mm-hmm.
recognizing you as an expressive art-based therapist,
Mm-hmm.
what can one expect in therapeutic space when they are engaging with you? What does
Hmm.
process is what you're talking about? Like, what does the process looks like? What to expect?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I think for someone who's kind of seeking therapy for the first time or any number of times, it's always very overwhelming, because mental health as a concept, as a discourse, is that way. But just to like give it you a kind of insight into how it would look like, it's more about a blend of the traditional talk therapy, but with definitely those stances of different approaches, different art forms blended to get the same result as we do in talk therapy, as we get, as we go forward in that process. This would be, it doesn't really have, like, I don't believe in just sticking to one form that we just go on kind of, unpacking things through drawings or through metaphors or through stories or through movement. It would just be more about verbalizing what you felt in those activities. And if there would be, because, a lot of people, they say that they don't know how to express.
Hmm.
These forms kind of give you a platform, give you another alternative medium to express. Not everyone might be able to do it in words, but your drawings, your words, like in terms of poems, because that's also a very integral part of expressive art based therapy. The writing part comes in. That kind of does, give you that outlet to express.
Mhm.
So it kind of expands your your idea of how to express, because the way the mainstream world works is that you have to talk about your emotions, you have to, communication is important. Yes, it is, but expressive art based therapy kind of provide you different platforms to communicate, different ways to communicate what you are grappling with. So it's that whole sense of being able to express your emotions the way you want to, and not just sticking to one sense of how it could be an outlet. So I think that kind of gives you more options, makes it more inclusive in that way,
Hmm.
because not everyone prefers a certain way, a certain traditional way of going
Hmm.
about things.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's the
We
thing.
definitely don't have to be experts in any of these
You
streams.
don't, definitely, exactly.
It's just about having to come in with the idea of
Mhm.
exploring what's there, the
Yeah,
terms of pleasant,
mhm.
unpleasant, or neutral experiences per se.
Yeah, yeah. Like it kind of flows the stagnant part in you,
Mm.
because then you have different ways, different anchors of doing that.
Hmm.
So that's how I look at it. That's how I see it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. What are apart from being a therapist at Pause,
Mhm.
what are other roles that you do? And what the two questions I have. One is, what kind of population do you consult with? And other, what
Hmm.
are other roles that you play at Pause apart from being a therapist?
Okay, so I think the age range that I can talk about, in terms of, I am open to see anyone between the age of 18 years to 63 years. I think that's been my bandwidth till now. That's
Mm.
the age range, irrespective of gender, caste, creed, any kind of those intersectionals.
Mm.
Um, that's the population I engage with. The next question, just to go on that what other roles I see myself in at Pause, or I kind of play at Pause. I'm not really sure. So I think I'm someone who really likes doing all kind of works when it comes to anything about creativity, anything about kind of sitting together, discussing and planning out things. So I think at Pause we have that kind of creative liberty to do things other than just those therapeutic sessions. So right now I'm engaged with some group work. We are coming with certain group based activities in the coming months. And I would want, like, the viewers who are watching, I would want them to really come and try it out for themselves, because I feel a lot of time that that sense of being in a group and talking about certain topics really give you a strength. So I think I'm looking forward to doing group based work. I'm also kind of getting inclined towards social media right now, how to really get into, because we're doing a lot of fun stuff at Pause, and I would want to really put it out for others to see in different ways, in creatively different ways, and in vibrant ways, I feel. Are you, is there anything else that you're getting which I'm missing? I don't really remember. I'm not
Uh,
really getting anything.
you also,
Please help me out.
as a fellowship project, you were
Mhm.
engaged with the TFI schools.
Yeah. So I think I that's kind of skipped my mind, because now it's at pause, and we're going to resume it in the next couple of months because summer vacations are going. So
Mm.
as part of my fellowship, I'm also engaged with TFI, with the project with TFI, that is Teach for India Fellowship, as in that project, and through which we actually go on to a lot of government schools in Hyderabad, and we are holding space for marginalized children or children from all walks of life who are a part of those schools, and trying to create more awareness about mental health, and also to understand and work with them in terms of the issues that they grapple with on a community level based or on a personal level basis, and just to be able to be there for them as a support system, and
Mm,
also kind of build upon their agencies and how they look at life, how what are the goals for their own personal strengths.
mm,
That's what we've been engaged in. We're going to resume that work after post the summer vacations, so I'm also kind of excited for that.
yeah. Mm. So from what you said about your hopes and your stance and your intention, uh,
Mhm.
and I'm wondering if there is anything that, if you have to sort of think about, if there is any change that you want to bring towards this space, what would that
Mhm.
be towards the space of mental health,
Mhm. Mhm.
and how would you contribute uh, towards that change?
Mm. I would just go back to the master's thing that I was talking about, that how I was introduced to the whole concept of margins back there. And that's been my constant, like it's kind of edged as my constant hope, and something that I would want to really look forward and contribute to the arena of mental health, is to be able to make it more accessible for people from margins, because we do, even at pause, the social justice stance that we have is very much in sync with working with people from margins, but I kind of also want to amplify those efforts, and in ways of doing community work, community based work, where people come from very underprivileged sections of society, and to also like see how that whole sense of being marginalized has that nuance towards mental health, right? Because it's very much in sync with it, like they go hand in hand, but not a lot of conversation has been happening around that front. Also with the present, I don't know, just a very like a constant thought in my head these days is with the present condition, present scenario, the political scenarios in our country has been very disturbing when
Mm,
it comes to minorities or when it comes to the marginalized communities. So that is something I really want to work towards, to be able to make it more accessible, to be able to make mental health accessible, mental health services accessible for the welfare of people who comes from margins.
mm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's
And
about.
to be, yeah.
Mhm.
Mm. No, I was
Mhm.
just saying that seems to be an intentional way of actually engaging within making mental health accessible to
Mhm.
students, and having to look at holding space for them as well. Yeah, to sort of make mental health as an important aspect
Yeah.
that in those spots as well of life.
Mhm.
Um, and there's one question that's something that's stuck with me to what you said.
Mhm.
It's, you said something about really engaging within the process, and having to be in this space for last 11 years, uh,
Mhm.
and like via your education and via your practices and things like that. I'm wondering,
Mhm.
I also know that you've done mindfulness, so I'm very curious to know, and this is out of my curiosity, I'm asking, how
Yeah.
do you engage with the concept of mindfulness in your art-based work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, even when this is the initial time when we had started doing mindfulness and we were introduced to that whole approach, I always believe that our body has a way of communicating with ourselves. And I keep on even telling my clients, like if they were to see this interview, they would be like, oh, she tells this as in sessions as well. But I strongly believe in that, Ruhi, that our bodies have these little ways in which they in which it likes to communicate with us. It kind of makes wants to make us aware. It's that body's whole process of trying to tell us something. And with that whole mindfulness approach coming in, it kind of just you just kind of reunite your whole mental health with your physiological health, because that's something which I have always seen as also a shift when I have used the expressive art based modalities, that how certain things, because when how I was telling you about the movement based approach, and I've seen that how having that kind of blending the bodily sensations with the making meaning of what it could look like in terms of thoughts, in terms of inner sensations that you're feeling, which would be more seen as a psychological, in a psychological light, in a psychological ground. That kind of, it helps, it helps the client to understand that how it's all a very interrelated process. A lot of times, even, now that you've been talking about it, I kind of go back to those one of these lessons we've had with TFI schools, where we kind of talked about what does a healthy body looks like. And a lot of kids just talked about that jo sharir sahi sochta hai, like people with healthy thoughts, with good thoughts, are the ones who have a healthy body,
Mm,
and vice versa. People with healthy thoughts have a healthy body. So
mm,
it was just so nice to see these kids to be able to make that connection between being a healthy body and a healthy mind. And I think that's something which is a connection with me when it comes to mindfulness and blending that approach with movement based therapy or any kind of art based modality for that matter. I've seen it working for me when I've actually given that stance and I've given that kind of awareness, that kind of attention to my bodily sensations and how that makes things flow.
mm,
And that is something that I would really love to explore more, and also, kind of integrate it with the art therapy approaches that I've been practicing here at POS.
mm.
So yeah, that's really just been a very, I don't know, it's very like a eureka moment at times also, because I know about it, but to really see it in practice and to feel it yourself, it just changes the narrative for me. It just like kind of makes me more believe in that, yes, body does have a way of communicating with us.
And I
Yeah.
guess that's a magic of process versus
Mm-hmm.
um,
Product, yeah,
in the beginning. Yeah,
it is.
interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
beautiful. So before we actually close up the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any message for the beginners in the stream who are uh, beginners in mental health space
Mm-hmm.
who are interested in art-based work? And do you have
Mm-hmm.
any message for them, any insight or thought that you want to
Mm-hmm.
share it?
Yeah, I think and this is just because I'm gonna relate it to me, because that's how I've experienced it. I've experienced the field, and that whole when I was in getting into it, when I was being introduced to the field of psychology, I feel I would want people who are actually looking forward to get into the field, who are looking at psychology as something that they would want to really look up as an option of career, as an option of professional areas that they want to venture into, to kind of give to kind of be more conscious of, or be more aware of the intention they are coming with, because that's something that has made me continue in the field, and that has always, and when I say intention, it's a very dynamic thing, Ruhi, because it keeps changing. It's more about the stance that you would want to have in the field, and especially with something as nuanced, as complex, and as very interestingly as mental health, that would really help you to understand that why were you, because there was something that you knew about the inclination towards psychology. It could be the people who've been talking about it. It could be a counselor, as in my case. It could be things that you read about. It could be a lot of other things. But then to really give a thought to that, what is your intention of entering into the field, and how would you like to take it forward? And then it could just be a very professional choice. It could be something to understand your own personal life, and then to be able to contribute to the professional life, because it's a very ongoing process. It doesn't really, you can't just go like, okay, I'm going to keep my professional and a personal life separately. I haven't been able to do that. I don't think so it's possible. I don't know whether it's possible or not, but I feel you take a lot from your inclination, from your academic approach to psychology. You take a lot from there, and you're able to blend it in your personal life. Like for me to be able to continue in psychology with an intention to understand more, with an intention of curiosity, then to turn it into an intention to contribute to the mental health welfare of the society, it has also made me grow up as a person. It has also kind of contributed to my own personal development.
Mm.
And having that whole um, what is that word, intention, but also that sense of uh, how it's kind of acquired, like you've acquired it to work it for your own internal well-being.
Mhm.
That's something which has helped me. So I think that is something I would want to tell people who are looking forward to the field.
Mhm.
With respect to expressive art based therapy, I think if you like colors, if you like movement, if you like something that you can bring a lot of creativity to the space of therapy, then expressive art based therapy is for you. I don't think so it's limited to any kind of population or any kind of people who are looking, like any kind of professional mental health practitioners. It's an open space, and the very foundation of that approach is inclusivity because of the variety of modalities it use. And I think that should be just your sense of why you would want to do it, is because you would want to just come here, have fun, and be in that process of where that fun also makes sense for you and for the other. And I always believe that practicing that approach does bring some insight for the client, but you also, as a practitioner, take a lot from that whole, from that whole sense of engaging in the expressive art based therapy approach. So, yeah, that's a part.
That's beautiful.
I hope I'm making sense, Ruhi. It's just like,
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
yeah.
Okay. So before we close up,
Mm-hmm.
going with the title of this podcast on being a therapist, what is
Mm-hmm.
it like for you to be a therapist? What does it mean for you to be a therapist?
Hmm. uh, I I'm very scared of dark spaces. I'm very scared of like darkness and just that in general.
Mm,
And someone sometime back had told me that how it's like you're that dawn in the dusk. I'm
mm,
also very dusky that way, but so I feel like those lamp posts. One of that lamp post in a very dark abandoned area, and
mm,
everyone is very scared of going to those
mm,
areas, but there's just one lamppost which kind of gives you some kind of motivation, or there's some kind of support, some lightning there.
mm,
And that's how I relate to being a therapist. I don't know how much I'm able to stand up being that lamppost, but that's my intention of being that lamppost.
mm.
I think that's how I see myself being a therapist.
That's beautifully said.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Hmm.
So yeah, with that we come to an end of our conversation today. Thank you so much, Raji, for sharing.
Thank you so much, Roy, for doing this.
Most welcome. Thank you
Okay.
everyone for witnessing this conversation with me and Raji today. For
Hmm.
more such videos, stay tuned to our social media platforms. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Bye everyone. Bye Raji.
Bye.